'Tis the season. Hi everybody. This is Eileen Castanio, host of the Supernatural Substation, and you are listening to the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network, and not on Pal Talk. Any of you looking for us on Pal Talk? Pal Talk's having problems, so go directly to the homepage at www.uprntalkradio.com. With me in the peanut gallery, I hope you don't mind me saying that, is
Nah.
the birthday girl, Bernadine LeBlanc. That's what all the Aurelio Voltaire. Joe, okay, behave. I hear myself. I heard myself talking. He's like too excited. Okay, in there. That's what all the Aurelio Voltaire happy birthday was about. So happy birthday.
Thank you, ma'am.
We do have those sometimes.
Yeah, we try not to, but
well, yeah. Others have more and worse. They have worse wear and tear. So, but anyway, I've known you how many years? 10 years now, over a decade almost. So, so that you qualify as my old friend. So, there you go. Let's see. Our guest tonight is going to be James Annitto. He is a demonologist, a seminarian, and a paranormal researcher. So he's going to be talking about about demonology and the religious response to it. So Bernadine and I were talking before the show, and how do you feel about demonologists, Dean?
well, I don't know. There's a lot. I know we need them, because there's like not enough people to deal with that type of thing. For us paranormal researchers, we need that because we don't do that. So when we're having a problem that we feel is demonic, we need someone to call, and there's only one Ralph Sarchi. So I mean, we do need someone to call, but I think there is like way too many coming up that consider themselves demonologists. That we talked to a couple on here that really didn't know much about it,
right?
Not to be like, I don't know if you can be certified or not, but I think you need to know a lot and have a lot of experience with things like that before you jump into exorcisms and things like that, because I wouldn't want to play with that. I mean, kudos to them, but that's just not my thing. But that's not something I would want to play with. I would, if it was me, just speaking, if it was me, I would have lots of years under my belt and a lot of research before I would even attempt something like that, because I mean, our lives are short. Demons' lives are long, They're very intelligent, a lot more intelligent than we are.
Yeah, I guess you could say that they can outwit us. But you see, the trouble is, it's demonology. Demonologist is just another hat that people want to put on and take off and put on and take off and all that. And we've talked about the definition of demonology or a demonologist before. And the definition hasn't changed from the beginning of time when the word first, arose back in the, whatever, the primordial, whatever, or ancient, or you could just say in etymology in general, from daimon, daimon, which was the Greek word for demon or a demonic spirit. And the church just Latined it up and took away the I and made it an E, and we get demon. And if you look in the dictionary, any dictionary, a demonologist is one who studies demons, period. There were demonologists in every age of the church, every age of what you might call pagan or Near and Middle Eastern traditions. There have been demonologists forever, and these are people that study demons. They study the demons that their individual belief systems bring them into contact with, They study their nature, and they study their effects, and they study how to get in touch with them and how to get rid of them. But they do not, strictly speaking, engage in any conjuring or in any exorcisms of demons. And that's where I think the problem comes in. A demonologist should know a ton about demons. They should know as much as possible. But when it comes to actually boots on the ground, especially in the case of like true demonic possession, with, you know, what I call the big guys, and then they're minions, the discarnate, who have never been in physical form. Then, that requires religion. That does require, in my opinion, the Catholic religion. In my opinion, the Catholic ritual is the go-to because it's based not on God or some Jewish doctrine or, on whatever principles of this belief system or that. It's because it's Christ, and they cannot resist Christ, period.
Well, that's all I've ever heard of, them using that worked.
Mm-hmm. That's it, because I was just going to do the equation. Christ plus demon is 0. I mean, it's, Christ to the power of 10 wins that. And that's why many of the early church fathers were free and loose. They were studying demons, but they also were conjuring demons, and they were doing other things that people would find shocking today to hear that Catholic clerics and lay clerics and everything were involved in, because they didn't have any fear because of Christ. So if you want, I've said this, you walk into a medieval village and you want a necromancer, they're going to point you to the rectory of the church. That's mm-hmm. the guy. But somehow or another, I am a demonologist. I don't say I'm a demonologist, but I am, because I do study demons. I don't draw circles and get in the circle and manifest them, but I do study demons. But I draw the line at, getting involved in people's lives who really and truly are being plagued by actual demons and actual demonic spirits, and give them any kind of hope that I'm going to be able to do more than identify them and point them in the right direction. And believe me, I will always point them to the church if I think it's a true demon. If it's some other kind of spirit, a negative entity, a demonic spirit, meaning those that have been discarnate, that that move about the world and are never, they're not neutral, and they're neutral, and they're not for man, they're not good for man or bad for man. They interact with us in whatever way we approach them. So those are like the really demonic spiritual reality that was already here when we ended up in this world. So I can help them define it. But if I suspect that it's the big guys, it's got to go to the church, and it just seems like in the last maybe 10 or 11 years, really since Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi, people are just popping up everywhere. I'm a demonologist. So we have a demonologist coming on popular today, and I want him to know. Yeah, I mean, it's like a what do you call it? A luxury item, or a luxury addition to a car or whatever. It's like, it's true. It's a luxury that's what it's called.
It's an added addition.
Add-ons, right? Or an upsell if you're in retail. It's like, what does that make you? I mean, I accept the fact that some of these people, some of them know a lot of stuff, but mm-hmm. You brought up Ralph, and we do reference him a lot because I think he's legitimate in all respects. I think he's legitimate, and he was hesitant. He didn't want to be called an exorcist because he is not one. He assists and has assisted, and then he was really, kind of uncomfortable with being labeled demonologist just for the purpose of advertising this show or announcing what the guest was going to be, because he is of the same mind, and there's a big limit to that. I mean, it's like, okay, I can study all the demons known to the unseen world, and and I'm not going to go in a house and drive something out. Can I help the people? because I know a little bit about, or I know about what the spirit might be, generally, yeah. Can I help them with some, different things to change and different things to do in their life? Yeah, but I'm not going to go in there and say, it's this, and I'm going to come in and drive this thing out of your house. I'm not going to do that. And I'm just uncomfortable with the fact that there are many, many people who do.
Well, the clients are putting themselves at risk, even, trying to put someone in their house that is not of the church. They're, how do you say it? Giving them hope that they may be able to. It's just like if I would go into someone's home and they have a haunting, that's what I do, and we figure out they do. And I tell them, oh, I can get your spirits to leave. Well, I would be lying to them because I can't promise that.
Right.
I can promise them if I get evidence, I could give it to them. I can give them proof of what they already have.
Right.
But that would be the same, of a person saying they're a demonologist and going in and promising them that they can, exercise their house, exercise their demon from them, But another, problem today is, and I hear it from a lot of my clients, when they go to their church, the church will not help them. The only thing that they will do, and I'm not speaking of every church, the ones my clients, have told me about, because sometimes, I will tell them if I feel it's something more than I can handle or my team can handle, please get with your church, get them to go to your house. And they say the church will not come to my house unless it's just for a blessing of my home. And that's it, period. And if they bring up the topic of demons, church won't have anything to do with them. And that from the case that we worked on together. That poor guy went to the church. I mean, he was seeing demons on the altar, but the churches would not go to their house. And even the one that we had here in our town that used to go to people's houses said, because I called him, he said, we no longer go into people's homes because it's dangerous for us.
Yeah.
Which I can understand their point. It is dangerous.
Yeah.
They used to go in and do all the exorcism and thing like that, but now they want the people that are possessed or think they're possessed or feel they're possessed to go to them.
Yeah.
Because they're safer in the church.
Right.
But I don't know a person that would be possessed that would actually say, oh, let me go to church today and get saved.
Well, there are a lot of people that maintain that they're not, and they'll go, even and because they don't believe that they are. But in response to that, see, I'm looking at one of these articles that I sent you. It was about when The Conjuring 2 came out, I think. So it was from 2016. How to become a demonologist like The Conjuring's Lorraine Warren. So it's a class, a demonology course for $49.99. It's Bishop James Long, and anybody who's looked at any of these paranormal shows on Destination America will recognize James Long. There's Father Bob Bailey. There's a bunch of other people and they all seem to align themselves with something called various things: the old Catholic Church, the traditional church, the traditionalist Catholic Church, and they will come out in bishop's robes with the bishop's crook and the mitre on the head and all this other stuff, but they are outside the communion of any church. I mean, I've looked into what the definitions. I know because I'm a sede vacantis. That pope that we have now, and I'm a Catholic speaking, is an apostate from hell, and he's a false prophet. That's not my pope. I don't have a pope right now. The last pope that I felt was worthy of the seat was John Paul, Pope John Paul. So, but you can look on it. I mean, you just look on Facebook. There's people marching around with, the album, and then they've got all of the paraphernalia and all this other stuff. And it's, what are people supposed to do? Believe that you can come in and do, that you have any sort of a know how? If it really what you are is you should come in my opinion, this is my opinion, just go in street clothes and do what you do. Anybody can walk in and say prayers. But when you've got a real situation where there's somebody in a family putting their faith in you, um, you don't want to be some kind of generic substitution for it. And so I guess we'll ask James. That'll be a question too that we'll ask him tonight. It's like,
Yeah.
because there are several different churches. There's, I read on his website, he said the Old Catholic Church. Okay. Well, the Old Catholic Church applies to a church that is, the see is in Sweden, and then they are in Switzerland, Germany, and I can't remember one other of the German, the traditional German areas that went into another country, whatever. But it's from that, so that's that. That has nothing to do with the traditionalist Catholic churches. And there are even different gradations in that. There are some that the Pope recognizes, or some that the Holy See recognizes. There are some that are in disagreement, but are still in the communion because they're willing to incorporate changes. The whole thing of the traditionalist Catholic Church turns on Vatican II. There are other things that were to do with Vatican I, but Vatican II modernized and secularized so much, and did away with so much of the liturgy here and there. And so when somebody says I'm a Tridentine traditionalist Catholic or traditional Catholic, that is the reason. That's it right there, because traditionalists believe the seat is vacant. They're kind of all together, but to one degree or another, right? So what church what's the church coming in? What church is that? I mean, where is your see? Where do you learn to become a priest of, and how come there's so many names for it? If you ask Sarchi, who is a reference point, he'll tell you it's that he's a sede vacantis. He does not accept that Pope at the Holy See. He doesn't, and he didn't accept the ones before him either, going back to Leo, I think the one before Pope John the 23rd, okay, who sat for or under his papacy, the Ecumenical II Council was held. And so he can explain that. He's still a Catholic. He's more of a Catholic than Catholics are that you go in church with today, because they say the Latin Mass, they do it in the old form. Everything that changed in Vatican II is preserved in the church, in the Sede Vacante Traditionalist Church. So, because I've seen, there's women prancing around in priest clothes and taking pictures with people, and they look harmless, but you think about it, they're going in somebody's house. I watched Ghost Adventures with some guy comes in kind of like in a priest clothes, and he has a sister with him, and she's like in cowboy boots and a vest, and she's called Sister Whoever. I'm like,
Sister Whoever.
Well, no, her name, I can't remember her name, but Sister.
I thought you meant that literally.
No.
Like, what?
Although that would be great, No, but Sister, whatever her name was.
Okay.
I know sisters. I had a Catholic education. I can remember almost every nun that taught me. And they didn't look like that. And, they may have assisted. Shoot, my great-grandmother knelt on stones and rocks at exorcisms in the early 1900s and stuff, but it was Catholics doing it. It was real, true Catholics. And I guess I'm looking for some clarification, but it's dubious and I have a problem with it,
Do you think that most of them would be better off called paranormal clergy?
Why clergy? They're laymen. They really are. You and I could put nun outfits on and go to people's houses.
Yeah. Well,
we're both Catholic and we can put nun outfits on, but
we need more of that than demonologists, is what I'm saying. The outpour of demonologists is like a lot versus clergy that can come into people's homes and help, with prayer and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way to do that is you need more people, more churches that recognized, deacons that wanted to specialize in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving off, and then that would just be another sort of investigator on behalf of the church, right? Now, Ed and Lorraine Warren, Ed Warren called himself a demonologist because that was the only thing that explained what he was doing at a time when all of this was really new. Back in the first blush, when, the first time the paranormal took the national attention or gained attention. So he labeled himself a demonologist. And I guess it was to distinguish, from what else he does. But it's become now, they're a dime a dozen. I have to say it. They're a dime a dozen. So it's appropriate to ask all of them, any one of them, what do you have? What is, if you've got a paper on your wall, it came from, somebody, and forgive me, but James Long, let's say, because he's advertising his services, that doesn't mean anything because he's not, in the communion of the church either, So all you have is a piece of paper from a guy who's just like you. Only he's taking $50 from you to tell you that you're a demonologist. I kind of think that we have our guest on board. James, are you there?
I am here. How
there
you guys doing?
Is. I'm
Hey.
fine. And there's Bernadine. Say happy birthday, James. It's her birthday.
I know. I already said happy birthday to her earlier, but happy birthday!
Thank you.
Well, good. Well, welcome back. I haven't seen you since. Welcome back. Well, we're happy to have you here since Gulf Coast Paracon. So, and I'm glad you came on. We were just talking before we brought you in about demonology and demonologists, etc. But I want to know more about you and how you call yourself a demonologist, and you are a seminarian, and you're also a paranormal researcher. I read a little of your bio, but I would rather have you just tell us how your interest in this came about and how you developed in this field.
Oh boy, I must have done the wrong radio show. I thought we were talking about dermatology.
Dermatology? Oh, I thought it was a colitis group. I have to hang up. Excuse me. No. we might have that by the time. No, go on. I'm sorry.
It's all right. For the listeners, of course, my name is James Annitto. I am a demonologist, or of course, a titled demonologist and a seminarian through the United States Old Catholic Church, and paranormal investigator of 12 years. Basically, for people that are listening, I've been involved in paranormal for 12 years. I am only, I will be 28 years old, so that means, of course, if you can do the math, I was very, very young when I started off in the field, and it was a interest to me, something intriguing to me. And the demonology thing, pretty much, in a quick summary, came to me because of more in-depth research within the aspect of the occult, and of course within my Christian beliefs, and of course dealing with clients as a paranormal researcher and investigator when I would go on these investigations at private residential houses, and I couldn't do anything more than just investigate. So I wanted to further myself, and of course, to me, knowledge is power. So I really believe on that. So I continued my knowledge. It's a little bit of summary, of course, of my bio. My bio, of course, you guys know, is quite a few paragraphs, so I could say that word by word, but who would be interested in that?
Well, you might be surprised, but I understand what you mean because there's more to discuss. Well, we were talking about. Well, Dean mentioned to me. Let me just back up a little bit. Because of your age, your young age, and the time you got involved in it, I read on your website you were like 15 years old, and that's when the interest, you really took a focused interest in it. Do you get people saying that you're too young you can't be doing this. Do you get that kind of thing, that kind of criticism when either
I,
you're, helping people or when you're speaking?
Well, I did. I think people have come accustomed to, I don't try to be a very egotistical person or somebody that touts the knowledge that I've obtained throughout my years involved in the field or just in general in life. I did at first. It was a big criticism. A lot of people attacked me from my age, saying that, you're too young to do this kind of line of work. But I also kind of had the same mentality. You're never too young to join the military. You're never too young to join the police force and do these other dangerous things. So, I know demonology is, of course, not like more, so to say, of the military or the police, law enforcement, because, of course, anybody can call themselves a demonologist. Instead, you can't just call yourself a police officer or a military personnel. So, I definitely got that criticism because I was young, but, a lot of people, like also the same correspondence, a lot of people judge a book by its cover instead of reading within that book to understand how much of a good book it is. So I definitely got those criticisms, but not much so now. I still get it here and there, but then I talk to those people like an adult, and I'm not one for drama, so usually I will go straight to that person and have a conversation with them, say, I understand what you feel, and it's greatly that I respect your opinion, but get to know me and get to understand. Ask me questions. If I can't answer your question, very methodical and the way you want to hear it, then maybe I'm too young for you. But I try to at least be very professional. And I try to at least have a general idea of what I'm trying to talk about and understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's good, and it's a lot more than some other people can say. So you're studying at the seminary, or you're a seminarian with the United States Old Catholic Church, right? Is that's your course that you're taking?
I am, yes. I'm currently a seminarian. So I started quite a few months ago. It was something that I always wanted to do, but of course, I'm a married man, and a lot of people don't understand. Of course, Catholics do allow in certain branches do allow married priests. So it's something I necessarily kind of always wanted to do. I felt like what I do within the demonology realm or within the realm of spiritual counseling is something I've always wanted to do my entire life. So it really took me a lot to go to that route, but luckily enough, unfortunately enough, I've built, I would say, a name for myself, because there's no names in the paranormal beyond what we would like to attain it to. But I built my name on the knowledge that I understand. So I really acquired a great friendship with Bishop Long, who gets a really bad rap from a lot of people, but very, very great person.
I mean, I just spoke to him. I just spoke of him prior to, because there was an article that I was talking to Dean about that said, how to become a demonologist like Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring. And I mean, honestly, he's offering these courses for like $49.99. The problem that I have, outside of the fact that it's outside of the see of the church, really, it's not in the communion of the church. It's something outside of that. So they can say they're anything and they get married. But what you do, it seems to me, James Long, there's no one-on-one in that study. There's no, I just said this to Dean about somebody else who's offering demonology courses. It's a lack of one-on-one training, in other words. So, I mean, does that bother you? Like, I know you know him, you've probably met him, etc. But still, you're at a distance from him, living your life, and so at what point everything involves field work, every sort of specialty or training. I'm just trying to find out how you feel about that. I mean, one-on-one is the best way.
Well, you got to understand it. I think this is where, if you just said Lorraine Warren, if you read if you read it and understand the book, The Demonologist, and what Lorraine and Ed did, or more so Ed, because Ed was the demonologist. Let's get this correct.
Right, I
Lorraine,
was just saying that before you came on.
So, Ed as a demonologist didn't go and do cleansings of the house. He came in as an interceptor for the church and basically said, all right, this is possibly what's happening. And he would tell the church, all right, this is what I feel like is happening. Here's some evidential data, and look at it. Of course, those people that he would go see would have to go get testing on psychological and a medical aspect, where they would have to go see a primary care physician, and then that would be all inserted to the church. What Bishop Long does is he gives you classes. I'm not sticking up for the man or anything like that. He's a very influential. He's a very knowledgeable man. I have a lot amount of respect. He's my bishop. He's my mentor. But you got to remember those courses, that the money he charges goes to his homeless ministry. He doesn't pocket it, and this is very factual information. But the thing is, that demonology course that he offers, it doesn't make you a demonologist. It just gives you information to understand when you actually go into a case, because we got a very, and you guys know this. Of course, we had this conversation into some aspect on the panel that we had. Too many people drop the word demon. And his demonology course, and there's many demonology courses beside his, but not very many people take that to believe, once I finish that course, I'm a demonologist. No, what those courses are meant to do, at least from Bishop Long's standpoint, is to give you an idea of what you could possibly be dealing with if you intercede and help a person, and to distinguish what is a demon, what's a negative spirit, or what's something beyond within the occult aspect. It could be something of an elemental, and that's what that course really does. It doesn't say, all right, after you complete this in 2 months, you are quote unquote a demonologist. I think too many people misunderstand what a demonologist is, and it's absurd to me. A demonologist is a person that intercedes, researches, studies, doesn't do nothing more than that. If you want to go on the aspect of ministry work and do cleansings and stuff like that, that's a ministry level. That's like me being a seminary to become a priest or becoming an ordained minister. Those are two different things, and I think too many people put that in the same box, basket, or whatever you like to call it. So, where I think that's where demonology or demonologist has kind of drifted to where people misunderstand what a demonologist really is. All I do as a demonologist is study, observe, and then involve myself as a mediator between the church and a client. And then if I believe for what is to be factual thereof, beyond mental or physical being, I get the church involved, and that's that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because we were talking a little bit about that. The actual definition of a demonologist still was and still is one who studies demons, period. That's it.
Yeah.
Bernadine's got some questions for you. Come on in, Bernadine. Birthday girl.
I was watching a YouTube video earlier today that you had done like 4 years ago, and it was an interview, and I can't remember who it was with, but it was a pretty heated argument type thing. You were on with 2 other guys and a lady, and they kind of attacked you. And I know you were younger back then, that was 4 years ago, but you had said that you had took a break, from everything, and it helped you, I guess, to focus and to learn more about what you do. But said that you had came into a term, and I can't remember the term, help me out. It's something that you had came up with a name, inhuman, maybe?
Inhumanology, yeah. I was trying.
Inhumanology, yeah. And the guy just attacked you, and I'm like, geez, everything has to be politically correct, or they just go to your throat, And
well, she said you held your own, so
yeah, I said, yeah, he held his own. That's good.
Well, you know what, and you know the one thing, and of course, you know I was young, and I was trying to, you know, you got to remember for the listeners and for you guys, and of course from you know my to be honest with myself is even though you know I am in the aspect in the realm of demonology, I I utterly hate the word demon. I think it's really, you know, I definitely believe in the concept of demons, or the you know, I believe I've dealt with beings that have could be, you know, correctly coined that term. Yeah, I do. I believe I've dealt with, you know, not that many, but I dislike the word because there's a mantra to it. There's this entertainment value aspect to it. So I was just trying to change a word that many people don't understand, because we think of demonic entities, they're non-human entities. So inhuman, you know, where we characterize them as, you know, inhuman, which a lot of us do, and we don't use the word demon because it scares people when you use the word demon and you make things worse. But I was trying to change something. I know that that interview very well. You know, I will say that, you know, the one thing that I think really puts me apart from a lot of people that live on this earth, you know, I really do learn from my mistakes. And I try to always better myself and better the people around me, because I don't want to see people fail. And that interview um, really took a big portion of me, where I learned from it. You know, I learned from, you know, not letting the fire keep burning, let the fire go out. You know, I really should have that time, of course, on the interview just hung up and said, fuck it. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. But
That's fine.
um, I should have just, you know, just ended it there. But I learned from that. You know, I was young. I was very, you know, brash. And, you know, I said, I'm going to keep going because, you know, I love what I do and I'm going to defend myself. But sometimes you don't have to defend yourself. And, you know, I also learned that, you know, I went back to the drawing board and I started, you know, researching again and getting back into just regular investigating. I kind of went back to the roots of why I got into this. And that really helped me. It really made me a better human being, and of course, a better researcher, you know?
Mm-hmm. Dean, you'll have to send me the link to that YouTube. I was just going to say, well,
Okay.
what to what do you define as a demon? What is a demon in your definition?
Well, you know, of course, there's many. Let's be honest. There's many different theories and different conceptions of what a demon is, either through, of course, the literature of the Bible, or, of course, the literature of many other people that have come before me within the demonology realm. But what I believe a demon is a demon is a creation of God, because if we technically believe in the concept of God, which I do, God created everything. He's omnipotent being that creates everything. So demons are this creation that it doesn't have a physical being, and that they are this true mantra of evil. Because we got to understand, in any kind of religion, any kind of life, there is, you know, the yin and the yang, the light and the light and the dark, the positive and the negative. There's that balance, because for life to exist, there has to be a balance within life. It's just that's the truth. You know, we have our bad and good moments. So I think demons are the true correspondence of evil. And they can take any, you know, manifestation of what they want to for them to appear. They play off the fear, and I think the greatest thing that, you know, I can relate that to people to understand is Stephen King's novel It. You know, he wasn't necessarily a demon, but he played off the fact that people's fears. He would appear as a spider. He would appear as a clown. That to me is what a demon is. I think a demon is a true instigator of fear, a true manipulator. And, you know, there's many different correspondence of what you can call a demon, but but that's also depending on, of course, what background you come from. You know, there's jinns, there's azoras, there's so on and so on, of different terminologies, different characteristics, very, very significant beings just like each other. But of course, I believe in the demonic aspect because I am a Christian, you know, and that is my faith, that's my belief. So I have to go based upon that. Because if I don't, I understand that other characteristics and other beliefs, and the certain personalities to these entities, but I also think all these entities also have the different kind of, what I should say, different kind of aspects of why they were created, or why different aspects of what they do. I think demons are the true essence of evil, while with jinns they could be good and bad jinns. They're of elemental beings. So that's why I believe a demon is. I think it's the true essence of evil and a true master manipulator.
Yeah. Well, when I say demon, and when I write it, I usually use a capital D. I'm talking about the demons in the kingdom of the shells, the actual peels of God that were shed and broken when he created this world. They, like him, this is in my experience and my knowledge of them, are unchanging because they're parts of him. They have their names. And if you encounter, or if you're invoking and encounter any of them, these are the Qliphothic demons, but the Goetia too. They react in a way that people, over time have basically recorded, and they usually do. You interact with them and they act in a certain way. They, just like we are. We're individuals. We have our names. We act in a certain way when we encounter other people. So if you're calling, for instance, well, I don't know, Asmodai, or, whatever, you're gonna interact with him in the way that he always is, because he's an objectively real entity. But leaving aside those, so I will not bring demons into it. I believe that what we're talking about is the instigators and manipulators of evil. Those are devils. I mean, really, in concept, those are devils. They are not easily. I mean, they're more easily accessible. It takes a tremendous amount of work to get in touch with the big guys, the hypercosmic demons that are part of this cosmos. But devils, and there can be discarnate humans as well, who have been basically adrift out there for so long, or who were so evil in life that their influence on us is as bad as a devilish influence on us. So I mean, in different gradations of that. And then there are entities, then there are elementals, there are all the nature spirits, the earth spirits, and daemons, or this demonic reality that I was just describing, Nadine, that interacts with us differently. It's neutral. If we're negative, it's negative, and it'll do negative things. We're positive, hey, but so I've often had a problem with people labeling everything demonic, like Zach Bagans on the show. It's demonic. It's demonic. I've had a problem with that since forever. How do you feel about that? I mean, and then I'm going to pitch it to Dean after this, but how do you feel about when you hear somebody just, who just walks in, basically doesn't know, maybe doesn't know too much about what's going on, and maybe they've been there for days and it's demonic. I have a real problem because they have no idea what real demons are if they're saying that.
Yeah. Well, I like to always give a true statistic, because, when I say 12 years, I mean flesh and blood, like putting my 100% effort into it, even as a youngling. I didn't do it for the enjoyment factor, the scare factor. I did it because I really actually had an answer to seek, to my question in general of what's life after death. So, within that statistic, I have, and this is just a rough number. This is based on what I can go off of what's in my file cabinet. Of course, I'm not methodical of counting it, but I'm kind of somewhat OCD when it comes to my file cabinet. I have over 400 cases documented within paper, because when I do a case, regardless if it's a private case or if it's something that I go do like at a cemetery, or go do at like some location, of course, legally, I always kind of do notes of what's going on. So, within that, I could only say 3 to 5 cases that I could quote unquote call demonic, but maybe 7 with two questionable that I still look at upon this day, that I still kind of look into. So you think about 400 plus cases, 7, 5, 3, whatever you want to look at it, and that number, that's a very big jump in, percentage. So, when you have somebody that's always calling something demonic, it really is something that is bad, because you have a team that comes in, and maybe they're dealing with a disgruntled spirit. Maybe they're dealing with somebody that was a negative person, like you said, in life, and they're a negative person in spirit. And, that's just how they're counteracting. They might be saying they're a demon because they're intelligent, but, of course, they're going to say that because they're intelligent, and they're doing that to scare you. So I like to also give this story. And the story is probably one of the best stories I ever have within the confines of my research and what I've done. I did a case for this gentleman, and a team came in, and, they got scratched. They got some kind of, they got some activity, not necessarily EVPs or saying that I'm a demon or blah, blah, blah. But the scratching happened, not just to the team, but to the client. Basically, it's a end all be all. I do work with people with abilities, because I feel like it's a necessary part of researching. You always use any tool that you can possibly have to collect data, especially when it's unknown. That's why it's called the paranormal. So, I was on this case for a long time because I was kind of stumped, and I was kind of fairly recently new within the confines of demonology, in the confines of being ordained minister at that time for the Church of Christ, as a deliverance minister for the Church of Christ. And, I was like stumped. I'm like, these people are getting scratched. Activity does happen. It's of course not like level 5 poltergeist, or it's not, of course, to the influences of like possession or oppression stage of a demonic haunting. And had some aspects of maybe an infestation, but I'm like, what's going on? And basically, I brought like 5 different mediums on that never knew each other at different times, and I collected data. And at the end of it, which it really made a lot of sense. And of course, I can't clarify and say, yeah, it's 100% fact, but it really did make a lot of sense. And after that point, it really did stop a lot of the activity. Small things did happen. But basically what had happened is, mind you, okay, listen to this. The gentleman that was living there, it was his grandmother's house. It was a duplex kind of thing, a house, a section of a house, an apartment on top of another apartment in one big house. And, the grandma used to live upstairs, and he used to live downstairs. But when she passed away, he took the whole premises. So he moved upstairs because upstairs, was a little bit more roomier. And, when after she died, activity started happening. But activity started happening, pretty influential. It was pretty active. And he would, of course, react in very Zach Bagans way, where he would say, F you, you get the hell out of my house, blah, blah, blah. And every time he would react like that or would say something like that, of course, he would get scratched. Something would happen. And after times of, kind of going back and forth and in that situation, I'm kind of like, all right, this is kind of weird. And every single medium said, oh, it's a family member. And they're getting aggravated because he's talking to them like a piece of crap. He's talking to them that like nobody would ever want to be talked about. At the end of it, and of course, this is of course not factual because this is all based upon people's abilities, which of course we can't understand as a true fact if people for the scientific or skeptic aspect of viewpoints. But at the end of it, we tended to believe it was his grandmother because every time he would react, of course, if you ever told your grandmother, F off, I'm pretty sure she'd slap the crap out of you, especially an old timer. So every time, once he understood that, we told him that, the activity very quietly stopped. And I say quietly stopped. Small things would happen, like little things, like a residual aspect, but it stopped where he was not getting scratched anymore. We also offer the crossing over, and of course, crossing over can only be accepted by spirit if they want to be crossed over. So I did that, and pretty much basically was dormant after that. And I don't stay in contact with my clients too often because I want them to live their life and not have to use me as a crutch, and they have to walk on their 2 feet and walk. But basically, for when I did stay in contact with them, things were quiet. So it really makes you think. The team before me was using the word demon, blah blah blah. He was using the word demon. He was swearing at his grandmother, quote unquote grandmother. So that's a story for people that you want to use the word demon and don't understand the situation. And the one thing that I really do, kind of drag it on a little bit, is I never tell a homeowner, or a business owner, or a client, whatever you want to call the person that you're dealing with, the family. I never ever use the word demon, even if it might actually be a demon. I actually never ever bring that word up and say, "Oh, you guys are dealing with demon," because not only does that psychologically affect them, it puts you in a very, very bad state with the family, with their mental capacity of why they're dealing with what they're dealing with. So I never use the word demon to a person's face. It would just be for my records or for my team's record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be pretty frightening. Dean, go ahead. I wanted to pitch it to you.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because of the things they watch on TV. Everything's a demon. But yeah, I have a question. Me and Eileen was on another radio show a while back, and I was asked a question that kind of ticked me off, because I had to tell the guy, how long I've been in the field. I used to work in a mental hospital for years, and I've been doing the paranormal for a really long time. And I had mentioned that, I counsel my clients when needed, and he kind of, I don't know if you remember that, Eileen, but he's like, what gives you the right, or what certifications do you have,
Yeah.
to be counseling anyone, and I'm like, because I've been in it for a long time, I know about spirits. I know about, bad spirits, good spirits,
Right.
inhuman spirits and negative, and you got it. And I also know about mental illness, because I did counsel people in the mental hospital without being certified. That was part of my job. But I know you have counseling on your bio. I think it's on your bio. What type of counseling do you offer your clients?
Well, let's first start off. I'm not, of course, a mental health specialist, or a psychologist, or a therapist. Of course, I have, especially now in seminary, I have had to do a few psychology or marital counseling classes within my seminary classes because as being a priest, those are the things that you do. But I also went to school for business management, and one of the courses, of course, a few courses within the business management realm for anybody that actually has a degree within that sector of things, is the human mind, how people that you work with, how their mind works, how to deal with them.
Like psychology?
I have. Kind of in some aspect, yeah. I don't. It's not called psychology. I forgot the actual the term they use within the business management realm. But so I've taken a few courses. That doesn't make me a specialist. That doesn't make me an expert within that realm of things. So when I say counseling, and when I deal with people, a family, business owners, homeowners, my counseling is more spiritual. It is more on the aspect of, especially when I was a minister through the Church of Christ before I switched to Catholicism and went to seminary. Of course, in seminary, I always counseled on a spiritual level. go to church, read the Bible, if you're dealing with spirit, pray. And that's that kind of counseling that I did. I didn't go into anything beyond the spiritual game. If I told them that there's anything that they need to talk to me beyond the spiritual aspect, if they want to pray with me, if they want to talk about God, if they want to talk about some level within those realms, then I'll talk to them. I'll counsel them. I'll tell them that there's certain things that they can do to better themselves. Of course, because faith is a strong thing, regardless of what you believe in. Faith is a strong thing. We a sector of our mind, our brain is used for faith, which is, of course, that's fact. So faith is powerful, and I try to instill that in my counseling. If the counseling is beyond that, then I of course tell them, and I usually do reference when I deal with people in a situation that if they're dealing with a negative situation, or even if something they're dealing with a minute haunting and it really affects them. I usually do, of course, depending on where they're located, because I do cases throughout the country, more so New England now because of having a child. I don't travel much anymore, but I usually do, of course, depending on how long they dealt with the haunting and how it has affected them. I actually do give them a therapist's number to talk to them, saying that they're very mindful, they're very open to the paranormal realm. So I say, here's a number. You can go talk to these people, because guess what? I'm not gonna lie. After I do cases, every month I go talk to a therapist. It's so helpful. I think everybody should go see a therapist. So I'm like, here, go talk to this person. If they do, great. If they don't, then they, of course, they don't follow my words, and they don't follow my counseling beyond the spiritual realm. But that's what I do for counseling. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. Why I was kind of being jumped on for that, because I mean, speaking about God and prayer and things that they need to hear that they don't know about the paranormal, that I would consider counseling too, because a lot of people really don't know. I mean, they're living in a situation that they don't understand, for one, and sometimes you can just remedy things over the phone or by email without even having to do an investigation if it's not necessary. Putting the whole family through that. So I think that's a part of counseling that you don't need to be certified for if you have the experience.
Yeah.
I think he, in that interview that you're referencing, he was like, basically, well, you don't have any certification as a counselor and all, and he jumped on you about that. I could come to your house and we could drink a cup of tea and you have a problem and I could talk to you about it and you could open up, that's counseling too. That's counseling. I don't need a license to do that either, but you have to understand these people. I had one of them, and I'm talking about people that do stuff for radio and TV. I had one of them who came down here, and it was for the History Channel episode about the Katrina cannibal, quote unquote. And he wanted to interview Marie Laveau. And I'm like,
yeah, I remember that.
She died in 1881, but if you go to her tomb, people say that sometimes I'm just like, there are the people who get too much into it, and then there are the people that are like, taking advantage of it. And then there are just the total idiots who just,
just want to debate,
Of course, Dean didn't know, right? I mean, of course, Dean didn't say, "Hi, I'm a certified, whatever, psychological counselor," and but it's being there. Sometimes, what I was going to add on to what you finished saying, Dean, was sometimes it helps just for people to talk to you, just for people to know that they're not crazy, that these things do happen, and to know that you're there in case it gets worse, or if they don't have an understanding of it's changing, and that is one aspect of what everybody should be able to do. Everybody who's quote unquote into the paranormal or in the paranormal quote unquote field should be able to do and be ready to do and be knowledgeable to do, because there are too many people out there who don't know can't find their own butt with two hands, right? And they shouldn't be talking to anybody. They should be, winding up the wires for the for the equipment and throwing stuff in the truck. Okay, but yeah, he was a complete gooberhead about that, and we try to make this. We're not saying we're mental health professionals, but doesn't it help to talk to somebody every now and then? Go on, Dean. I want to go ahead. You have some other questions for him.
Well, I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. Do you feel that they need more people in our field, in the paranormal field, more people that can go into homes? And I had mentioned clergy, but it could be another name that can go in and give prayer and things that people need besides exorcisms, like someone else to call, like what you do, go in and counsel them with prayer. And because a lot of clients that I was telling Eileen earlier, I tell them to go to their church, get the priest to come over. And if they mention anything to the priest at their church about demons, they automatically shut them off. They don't want to have anything to do with them. They'll go and bless their house, and that's it. And it's like, are the priests getting afraid to go to people's houses, or is it just more dangerous these days for them to go?
Well, it's not. I don't even think it's that dangerous. You got to remember. It's crazy to think about. I think of course, you can research it. It's known fact, but there is a great percentage of priests that don't believe in demonic activity. It is a true fact. They believe that demons do exist, but they do believe that they are very much so a rarity, and there is a good percentage of priests out there that aren't adequately trained to deal with that circumstance. You got to remember, an exorcist is used within the realms of infestation, oppression, of course, possession, oppression. So there's not many exorcists in the United States. In Europe, there's a plethora of them, but in the United States, there's legitimately only a handful. You got to remember, and I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, is if there is, of course, a true emphatic demon within that household or business, it's a process. The church doesn't just come the next day and start doing exorcism. They require the individual that of course is saying that they're possessed to go see a doctor, go see a mental health therapist, to have somebody like myself come in, review the situation, gather evidence or data, whatever you would like to call it. So it's a process. Do I believe that there should be more people like myself? Yes and no, but I also believe that they should also adequately understand what the difference is. I don't do it anymore because I'm only a seminarian. But when I was a deliverance minister for the Church of Christ, I went through seminary, a shorter seminary, of course, because when you're in a Catholic seminary is a lot. It's very long and very tedious and very so much information compared to many other churches within the Christian realm. When I was deliverance minister for the Church of Christ, I would go in, of course, as a demonologist and as also as a minister because I was ordained through the Church of Christ. So I was able to do, of course, the research. I was able to collect the data and then review it, and then was able to do a cleansing or a deliverance, or a blessing, whatever you would like to call it. I would never do an exorcism because I'm not an exorcist. But it depends. I think if you want to get into it and more people get involved in it, they need to understand what the differences are between demonology and, of course, ministry work. Would I like more help? Of course, with the people that do exist in this, to do it for the right reason. Yeah, I would definitely. It would definitely be helpful because, um, you know, only a sucker doesn't ask for help. So, but I also really think that the people need to understand what the differences are and go the right routes. Not go get a fake ordained ship. Well, it's not really necessarily fake, but go online and get ordained for $5 or something like that. Take the right necessary routes because, like I said, knowledge is power. Knowledge is key to this existence of life. So if you want to do that for the right reason, go learn the right ways. And that's something that I've always prided myself, and I wanted to be looked at as the right way. So guess where I'm at? I'm in seminary. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to better myself, not just for myself, but for the people that I come in contact with, the people that I work, the teams that call me, and for the clients that I deal with, because I want to be the best that I can be for myself and for them as well. I don't want to make anybody's life worse.
So do you feel
So
that you found your calling?
I do believe this is my call. I think this is my call since, I denounced God as a little child. And that's what got me into the paranormal. I think that this was always my call. I didn't think, I didn't wake up one day saying, James, I think I want to be a demonologist. Or I want to be a priest. It's just something that, of course, was in the pit of my stomach or within the confines of my heart, where I knew like this is what I want to do. My first time ever, being involved with a possessed individual. There's two things that happen in your mentality. It's either fight or flight. And a lot of people will flee the situation because they're not able to stand their ground. I stood there. There's these little traits that I've seen within myself of doing this, where so many people would be scared. Of course, my body would tremble and then my body would react to these things. But yeah, I do believe it's my calling. I do believe this is why I exist because, when we are created, or or what we go through as children, or what we go through in life, really dictates to where you go. You know what I'm saying? Like where it really leads to your path. Some people want to be astronauts, some people want to be police officers, some people want to be this. But me, I want to be, I want to be a person that can help people within the realms of spirituality, or within the realms of paranormal.
Excuse me. While y'all were talking, I was bringing back up the story from, I think it's Movie Pilot. Okay, How to Become a Demonologist Like The Conjuring's Lorraine Warren. And in the article, it basically tells you, here it is, Bishop James Long's demonology course. The cost is $49.99. The content is reading materials, written assignments, and a final project. The requirements: belief in God, have some experience in the field of demonology, have a mentor, and then recommended reading is his book, Through the Eyes of an Exorcist, and then Dark Siege by a guy named Jason McLeod. Now, you were talking about, pieces of paper and all this other stuff. Eventually, I mean, have you taken that? Is that the course that you took? Is that, did you get a certificate from that? Okay. Well, how do you feel about, I mean, I know he's your bishop. I know he's your mentor. How do you feel about that? $49.99. And then underneath it, and I'll let you answer, the Institute of Metaphysics, ooh, they say they'll do the same thing for you for $140.99. I don't know about you, but uh, that doesn't make me too happy. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, how do you feel about that? Not speaking ill of anyone. I'm like, money's got to change hands. And again, going back to my reference of, one-on-one, this is going to put somebody out there into a situation that's just going to, proliferate.
That's just an online course.
Well,
yeah, it's just a course. Okay.
Well, this leads to, and of course, I really hope people really comprehend this. It really leads to the point. It's that well, the metaphysics one, I don't know if that's correlated to.
Right, I was just
Bishop
throwing
Long,
that in there.
but
yeah,
but you got to remember the Bishop Long, like I said, we gotta understand this. And before I met Bishop Long and I heard these things about him, I kind of judged the book by its cover. When I sit down with the man, I've talked with him, I've had coffee with him, I've learned from him. When I talk about me being a demonologist or within the realms of demonology, this is before I even met Bishop Long. I've been doing this way before he was ever my bishop, before I ever even knew him.
That, but
I've never taken.
What I'm asking you is, what is your opinion of that? I'm not impeaching the man or anything.
Course.
I'm asking you, what is your opinion of his method of going online like that, and how do you feel about it?
How I feel about it is that that money that's raised. I bet if you go to his site, Paranormal Clergy or BishopLong.com, that money goes to a homeless ministry. So
yeah, but it doesn't matter, James. He's taking money from people and telling them that they're going to be demonologists.
No, that is if you read the literature, it is a demonology course. It doesn't say you are going to become a demonologist once you get a certificate. It's saying that you took a course in demonology so you have a better understanding of what you are dealing with when you go into a person's house. So you got to understand, I didn't take any certification courses. I read books. I learned under people. I did hands-on nature. If somebody wants to go take a course by an individual to me that has extreme amount of knowledge and get a little bit of better understanding about demonology, then that is up to them to do. There's enough understanding of where that money goes or what he's teaching you. It doesn't ever say there emphatically, if you go on his website, emphatically, and I'm not saying this because I stick it up for him. I believe anybody ever is do what they are do based upon what they do. But the thing is it doesn't say, quote unquote, you are a demonologist once you take this course. It doesn't say that. And
it doesn't. But those people taking that course, they're the ones that are out there saying, "I'm a demonologist. I'm a demonologist. I took a course from James Long, and I'm a demonologist." Do you understand?
And then emphatically,
James Long. I'm just saying those are the kind of things that lead to these people.
And Bishop Long will emphatically tell them that they aren't a demonologist. I know Bishop Long is very boisterous when it comes to it. And of course,
but James, I'm not saying that it's Bishop Long. I'm just saying I'm uncomfortable with him charging money for it. I'm saying it's contributing to a problem that is a real problem in quote unquote the paranormal field of people who think that they know what they're doing, right? And in every aspect of it.
Do any of us know what we're doing in the paranormal field?
Some of us actually do. Yeah, some of us actually do, if we know anything about the supernatural. But what I'm saying is let's say some Joe Blow, okay? Oh, I want to be a demonologist. So I go and I pay James Long his money, and it's okay. And James Long has not said you're a demonologist, but Joe Blow has taken a $49.99 course, and now he's telling people I'm a demonologist, and he's on a website with a team saying demonologist. That's how this happens, and people do get hurt. I'm not saying it's you doing it, and I'm not saying it's James Long, but.
So let's play this. For the smart people out there, and I'm not saying any of us aren't smart here, but for the people that are listening, when you hire an electrician or you hire a plumber, do you look at their credentials or do you look at the reviews? So look at the thing is okay, when you have somebody that calls themselves quote unquote demonologist, you ask them their credentials. That should be the best thing right there. If he just says, I took a $49.99 course online about demonology.
He's going to say
but the thing is, though, it is for us. It is for us as people in the paranormal. It is for, of course, the client doesn't know this, but it is for us to understand the difference between who is emphatically bullshit or not bullshit, So
understood.
It is a problem. It is a problem, but it's the same correspondence to: would you hire a plumber that's an apprentice, or would you hire a journeyman plumber. So it's the same thing. Would you hire somebody that say, I have a certificate from a course, or I've studied 20 years under these people I trained under, blah, blah, blah.
But you're getting offended. Don't get offended on his behalf.
I'm not getting offended. I'm just being factual here.
We cannot control I mean, we all know how big the paranormal, quote unquote, is. There are, I mean, they're out of the woodworks with all kind of crap. And it doesn't matter if you know that James Long is a good and upstanding person. He's an excellent teacher. He's a devoted bishop. Some Joe Blow or Jane Blow is going to go and take a course, right? And then tell people she studied with James Long, she knows about demonology, and there's no way that we can control that because they just take a course and they're out there, it's what I tell Bernadine. Thanks to the popularity of the paranormal, they'll never run out of, listen to him. You all right? They'll never run out of people that are haunted because they do this kind of stuff. Listen to this, okay? While you were talking, I went down the Institute of Metaphysics. It says that they will give you this course will provide the student with an in-depth examination of the subject, blah blah blah. Listen to this. The institute also offers courses on a variety of paranormal topics, including courses on aquatic cryptids, mysteries of Mars, and anomalous humanoids. And somebody's going to take it and say they studied
That's alien stuff.
That's the $140. That's the $140. Do you see where I'm at? It's like these people are let loose into the paranormal, and then you've got people getting killed in their houses, or
you know what the real problem is. The real problem is, and I've had this debate many times, so I laugh. I laugh about this this discussion. It is we talk about, of course, because people like to take the aspect of demonology and believe that it has any other different correspondence to paranormal investigators. But so we talk about this, but anybody can pick up a recorder or a flashlight and go into somebody's house and say you have a ghost or a demon too. So what's the difference? You're paying, or you're going to Walmart and buying a $40 recorder, and now you're a paranormal investigator and you go into somebody's house. There's no difference. It's the same argument. So anybody can call themselves a paranormal investigator. There's anybody that calls themselves a demonologist. At the end of the day, it's the same nutshell. So anybody can be a paranormal investigator. There's no commissioning board. There's no licensing board. So anybody can go in their house with a recorder and say, yes, you have a demon. It's going to take the same effect when somebody takes a $49.99 course of demonology and goes in the house and say, I'm a demonologist. There's no difference. One has, I can go buy a $49.99 recorder at Walmart. It's the same thing. So
what? People have to, just like they do reviews, like whenever people come to you and you refer them to someone else, if you can't handle the case or someone that has more knowledge or whatever, that's what I do. If clients come to me and say, I think I have a demon or whatever, and I know I can't handle it, I refer them to a reputable person. And that's what people should do. They should check the teams out, because they do have teams out there that go in people's houses, steal, from the clients, or they start provoking and cause more trouble than the people had to begin with.
Or they have pedophiles on their team, or they have rapists on their team, and all this other stuff. And nobody, this is a long subject that should be addressed, in a longer framework. But there is no control, and there should at this point be control. Look, what do I call myself? Do I say I'm a demonologist? I know a shit ton about all kinds of demons from all over the world. Do I say I'm a demonologist? No, I say I'm an occultist, and you know why? I used to practice occultism, right? I used to practice, came through that, came on my journey and back to, the original demonologists, the Catholic Church, the original studiers and the original exorcists of my Catholic Church, right? But I can say, I know if you do this particular whatever ritual, this is what happened, and this is if you did it right, if you did it wrong. So I can go in there and say, well, Joe Blow's son, he's interested in Crowley, and I see some of his reading materials, and I can make an informed assessment, but it's not law. It's not the bottom line God law. But I've put in my time. I lived through the experiences. I studied what happened to me. I became a practitioner. I came through all of that. And here I am. And I can say, I'm 57 years old and this has happened to me my whole life. And I think this is what you, but am I going to go in there and say, I'm a demonologist? I took a $49.99 course on, I mean, it's a problem. Will you agree with me that it's a problem with so many people out there calling themselves demonologists? It's an epidemic of stupidity, in my word. They're saying, I'm a demonologist. Look, I'm not saying you're stupid. You've got the background. I'm just saying there's a lot of goofy people out there, you know?
Well, I don't disagree with you, hon, at all. No, definitely. I definitely believe that pandemic reaches further beyond the demonology aspect. I believe it really goes into the realm of just being a paranormal investigator, too. I believe too many people want to do it for the joys and the fulfillment of it and then go and start getting into people's houses and start creating turmoil. So I believe it's a larger issue than just that realm that I'm involved in. So I 100% agree. I definitely think that it is a very big pandemic, but it's a pandemic that, as long as the paranormal has been around, it hasn't ever changed. You know, of course, it's gotten large. 12 years ago, there was probably 10 teams within Rhode Island. Now there's 100 teams, and of course, Rhode Island's the smallest state in the union. So, you know, there's been such an explosion, but we also got to understand there's been this pandemic, this issue for a very long time. You know, back in the day, people used to call Ed Warren all the time saying, you know, what makes you a demonologist? And a lot of people really forgot to understand he worked with the Catholic Church. But this argument has been an argument for a very, very long time, and I really do believe that.
It's true. What you're saying is true, but a lot of people out there today, they worship at the altar of Ed and Lorraine, who are worshipable, I guess. They're laudable, at least. And they have no idea that they think this is all new, that suddenly the paranormal, they go out, they get their black T-shirt and their jeans, and they got their little piece of paper, and now they're this, okay? And all they know is that these people are whatever. They don't realize there was a whole first wave of it in the 60s and 70s, and these were the people involved in it. They don't realize that in the 50s, it was Wicca and Gardnerianism. And before that, in the 20s, you know, it was Steiner and it was Murray. And they don't realize any of that stuff. And I will tell you this, 9 out of 10 of them want to be on TV, right? So
definitely.
In the end, so you agree with me that these people are running around there calling themselves something that they're not, right?
Definitely.
I just think that offering them classes online like that, I just think it's creating more of a problem. And I have a problem with that. There's no way to regulate that. There's no way to, you know, enumerate that and say, well, you know, Joe Blow, unless people start complaining about people and we begin to have like a registry of don't use these people. And I mean, do we want to, police ourselves and do that? I don't know, you know, but.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, the issue's been around, and I'm glad you hit very early. You know, this problem's been around since the, Fox sisters, even further than that, when people used to call themselves
mediums. It's been around since the church. I'm telling you, it's been around.
So, okay. But the thing is like, you know, it's really lemons and limes. Where do I agree with the courses online? I necessarily don't. Have I ever taken a course? No, I haven't. I have never paid money within the fulfillment of getting a certificate within that realm of the paranormal. Do people do it? Yeah, I do. But I also do think, of course, maybe the metaphysical institute, I wouldn't necessarily agree with. But I also think there's a little bit. I also think there's a little bit, you know.
It's party. I mean, it's like.
I can imagine.
It's hilarious. I mean, yeah.
But
I want to study
I think there's a little bit. I think there's a little bit more control, you know, within the realms. You know, it's still, you know, still hit and miss. I think, honestly, regardless of how much you disagree, maybe you should have Bishop on and have this conversation with him. But, you know, I really feel like with that with that confines, you know, where that course is coming from, I think there's a little bit more control because, you know, it's not like, you know, the United States Old Catholic Church is a logical
Right.
aspect of Catholicism. So, you know, it's really, you know, it's really up for debate. And I could see your argument, and I could see my argument. You know, I think it could cause issues, but I also think that if there, you know, of course, anybody can go pick up a book on demonology. Anybody can go pick up An Exorcist Tells a Story by Father Gabriel Morse, and after reading that, they think they're an exorcist. So that problem lies within many different realms, not just those courses either. You know, I know people that, you know, read 4 books and emphatically read 4 books in demonology, or, you know, talk to me
call themselves demonologists. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had people who've
Wait, James,
I've had people in the field.
Wait, babe, we're up against a hard break. We're going to have to take a break. So we want you to come back and continue your discussion with us. And
I would love to.
Love to have you back on the show. You talked to Dean about rescheduling you. We're just against the hard break at the hour. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, can you give them your contact information and where to find you quickly?
Definitely, yeah. You can go on Facebook, James Annitto, Annitto, or you can go to jamesannitto.com if you like to use the website.
Excellent. And kiss that baby for us, and Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas and God bless.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thank
Bye-bye. All righty. Good night. All right. Well, that was fun. That was interesting. And we're going to take a break here. You're listening to the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side. All righty. Woo, that's loud. That was loud. All right, I got to step away. I'll be back.
Okay. Were you listening, Joe?
I caught part of it. Yeah, I was actually listening, and then some people in the other chat room, Spreaker, was asking questions. So I started reading that, so I was half listening.
Yeah, it kind of got heated.
Oh, that's good though. That's good radio.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say
I think we'll have comments on YouTube for that one.
Well, one of the people in the Spreaker room was kind of agreeing, so. Because they would ask some questions. They could probably still hear me, actually. Let me turn Spreaker.
Joe. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. 2, 2, 2,
Yes.
1.
Yes. Are we live? Are we on?
Yes,
Oh,
we're live. We're all live. I'm sorry.
Can't resist my walking Mercury retrograde. Hi, we're back. During the break, I discovered something called the chat on Spreaker. Oh no, Bernadine! If she was here, she would slap me because I'm always, making friends and alienating people. So I'm not. Anyway, welcome back. People are actually listening. This is the Supernatural Substation on the United Public Radio Network. And if you're listening to us in Spreaker, that's great. Or on the iHeart connection, that's fine too. Apparently, the Pal Talk connection has imploded. Anyway, we just finished chatting with our guest, James Annitto. What do you think? Thoughts, Steve?
I think it was a great show.
I think so too. I think we need to have.
Interesting.
I think we need to set up a panel show with multiple guests, maybe of different opinions. I felt like James was getting a little testy, and I was kept trying to like clarify that I wasn't saying anything about Bishop Long. And I wasn't saying anything personal about him or anything. It's just that there are
maybe it's just the classes in general, because there's more than his.
Well,
his
but
course.
it doesn't matter what it is, okay? Really. Yeah. Out of the 3 options that showed up on this article, and this is in an article that people are going to read, okay? There's the crazy people over at the Metaphysical Institute of Metaphysics, although now I'm interested in what are the mysteries of Mars. But there's 3 options. James Long's comes up first. The Institute of Metaphysics, that's the one that's $141. And the American Association of Exorcists, who we reached out to for our famous, regrettable possession case that we can't seem to get the high help for. That looks a little bit more fundamental because there are some different books, but it does. So, I'm just some guy in a team or, who likes to go out with the team into cemeteries, and I like to have my matching uniform, and maybe we talk at a library. Okay. And so I decided to take a course online. And the next thing I know, my check is cashed or it's cleared my account. I read all the books, I do that. And James Long has not told me, hey, now you're a demonologist. But I paid money, so now I'm a demonologist, right? I mean, do you see? That's how it works. And you know that because we talk about it all the time. I paid $50. I got a piece of paper. I studied, and that person will get online or get with their team, and then the team will say, he studied James Long. And that's a far cry from I took an online course. Okay. I mean, that's what I was just trying to get to is we can, once you do something like that and you offer something like that, there's no way to control how many people are doing that, because James Long's would be the cheapest one other than the Association of Exorcists, which I think they have a little bit more of a requirement, like a membership requirement and stuff. But, there it is. A lot of people have $50. Some of us don't all the time, but, they save up their money or they decide they want to do it. And they not only expect to be able to call themselves demonologists, because mostly people don't look, at the fine print or whatever. They are going to go and call themselves demonologists because they read a book, they paid somebody, and this happens all the time. And James is right to say, well, what about paranormal investigators? Well, that's true.
It's the same thing.
That's where, someone like you who has like 30 years of experience comes in, and he told everybody his experience, but it's a perpetual motion machine. And then, like I told you, there's no way we'll ever run out of cases for paranormal investigations because people are doing that. So Joe Blow or Jane Blow will, now she or he is a demonologist, and, they're also reading other books and stuff. And they go into a home and they introduce themselves to the people. I'm a demonologist. I'm the team's demonologist. What are my credentials? I studied with James Long. Okay. No, you didn't. You took an online course, right? And then they proceed to just create a whole bunch of havoc in somebody's house, because not everybody, is, the best intent And, not everybody is honest, and some people are very confused about what they're confused about. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I had a question that I didn't get to ask him, and it kind of pertained to that. I have a lot of, like, I wouldn't, well, I'm 55 today, but I wouldn't call them children, but in their upper teens, early 20s. And I know he started very young, and but not all people want to be in it because they feel it's their calling. They just want to be in it for the fun of it, which it shouldn't be that way. You should be in it for the research and to help people. And I get a lot of these people that ask me to be on the team. And I didn't get to ask him this, if he had that problem or if he has people that call him, because one day he will be older and he'll be more experienced, and he will have teenagers his age when he started call him and ask, to be on a team or whatever. And what's he going to tell them? What I tell them is go and get a life first, because
and get some experience, right?
Go to school, go to college, have a family, get your career started, do all these things before you think about getting into any kind of supernatural or paranormal anything. Go and get a life first. And they get mad at me. They really get mad at me.
Well, it's like someone who wants to write. You can write very well, and you can write what you consider great at 17 years old. But what have you experienced, right? When you're 47, you've lived your life and you have something to draw from. And it's the same thing. That's why, I mean, I'm not in any kind of a credentialed kind of a way to kind of like make my case, but you and I have similar backgrounds as to why. I mean, we took different paths to it. But
I grew up into it,
right,
and
I didn't ask to grow up into it
and
either.
Before computers,
I just happened to live there.
Yeah, we didn't have computers. We had to go to the library and find books, on what we wanted to try to research.
There's always some like resource or whatever. Like when here in New Orleans, it was the Golden Leaves bookstore, and they had classes, and they had Hans Holzer. They had different speakers, lecturers, Lorraine and Ed Warren. I mean, and my mother was the one going to it and dragging me to it. But it's just the idea of when we talk, and I guess we're going to have to wrap up soon. But when we talk about some kind of a body of neutral people, absolutely neutral, of different expertise or whatever, that look at and evaluate evidence in different haunting cases and stuff. It's kind of the same thing. Who's got their pulse on this? So all kind of people are offering online classes, but who is following up? Somebody could think he knows a lot about demons, and there could be a real demon involved. Okay, somebody could have done something very stupid in a particular environment, and it only takes one of those kinds of hauntings to ruin several lives.
Right.
So it's another of the, I would say it's dangerous in my opinion, but most people would say it's irresponsible. And it's the same question: when are they going to allow outside supervision? In other words, when are they going to allow that? And in some way, it has to be credentialed. It has to have review, standard operating procedures, and a review board or something, because no one's ever, what are you going to do? You're going to do this all your life and want something out of it. Like you and I, I'm a writer, I write other things, but I don't necessarily want to be paid because I know, I'm an occultist. Pay me and I'll do whatever, chicken bone or whatever it is. I'm not looking for that. But,
Right.
If somebody is doing this all their life, don't they want some kind of legitimacy at the end of it? And it's just my opinion and your opinion. I know you agree. It's like, it's the next natural step, the next logical step, the next right thing to be done would be to have some sort of an umbrella that can assess what we do, what everybody does from different points of view, and say yay or nay, or more work, or give.
And it may have to be that way one day.
They won't do it. I would bet I could go to Las Vegas and bet $1 million whatever on it. They will never do it because everybody is out for themselves. Everyone.
But one day, if it does get really dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
clients and stuff, it may have to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's proliferation of.
I mean, clients already scared to even call in investigators because they're unsure, but like I said, they need to research and review who they send into their house to begin with.
Yeah.
If
Who's
they're
going to do
smart.
that? I mean, you were talking about the guy with the interview and said, well, why are you counseling these people? You're not a mental health professional. Well, true. And you never said you were. But what if there could be some sort of a certification or somebody keeping track of people pretending to be something that they're not in this particular field of interest?
Right.
And we're about to wrap it up. Joe says wrap it up. But anyway, we're going to leave that there and we're going to go off for the weekend. Bernadine, your contact information really quickly because Joe wants us to hit it.
Okay. You can contact me on email at Bernadine, BERNADINE at lspr-society.com.
Right. And you can look up me. Books make great Christmas presents too, by the way, at www.ElleenPastanio.net. You can find the Supernatural Substation on Facebook and on the YouTube channel where past episodes and other things we're cooking up are going to appear. So please go and subscribe, and please go and subscribe to our Facebook page. It's a lot of interesting stuff there. We are the Supernatural Substation. We're part of the United Public Radio Network and iHeart Partner. Stay tuned for Miss Kathy Bilstein because you're going to get high and have a quantum leap pretty soon. And then at 2 a.m., I've set up a terminus that involves snow because, hey, it's Christmas and it's the incident at the Dyatlov Pass, the great Russian incident that is unexplained. Have a great one. Have a great weekend. And for those of you that don't listen to us next week, if we're on, Merry Christmas.
Night, night.
Happy birthday, Dean.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Got to get Zeke in.